Hi everybody, this is Dr. Whipple for English 154, uh, s- uh, writing about energy and technology. And it's good to talk to you again. I have a couple of announcements and then I have some sort of a mini lecture about the paper number 2 that is due on the Friday right before spring break. First of all, the announcement, which is we do have an in-class meeting this coming Tuesday. Next Tuesday. So please make sure that you are there in our regular place in the studio in Epley 119. Okay. Second thing I need to tell you is I'd like to talk to you about paper number 2. A couple of people have had a couple of questions, so I thought I would answer these and share them all with you. Paper number 2 is a review. Now, it's not the kind of a review, it's a book review. It's a book review over animal, vegetable, mineral. And it's a book review over all of it. Okay, not just the chapters we read, but the entire book. So if you're still finishing the book, try to finish it very soon because you want some time to digest that before you finish your paper. Okay? This book review is asking you to judge the book, make a value judgment. Now, we make value judgments all the time. We make value judgments based on what we should wear, or what other people are wearing. We make value judgments over at restaurants, whether the food is good or not, whether it's a like for example, if I go out to a place and get a hamburger, well, I've eaten a lot of hamburgers, so I can judge against other hamburgers. So I could say it's a 4 on a scale of 1 to 5, or it's a 3. It's kind of mediocre. It's okay. It's sort of meh. So value judgments are not either all good or all bad. They are all over whatever spectrum you choose to make, but you choose to create. Okay, so my strong suggestion for you guys is that you use sort of a spectrum or a rubric so that you can have a scale, really, so that you could say, on the scale of 1 to 5, that's pretty simple. Animal, vegetable, mineral is overall, a 4 or 3 or whatever, a 5, whatever you want it to be. Now, this review is constructed in, well, basically 5 parts. This is a kind of a classic 5-paragraph theme paper you're going to be looking at. So let's say you have an introduction at the beginning, a conclusion at the end. Great. Our 3 body parts should be constructed of 3 criteria. Now let me talk about criteria for a second. Criteria are the ways that we talk about something, the ways that we separate an entity, a book, a movie, or whatever, into its constituent parts. Okay, so for example, in a film, 3 criteria might be special effects, acting, and message or theme. Or it could be music, costumes, and setting. Or it could be casting, storyline, and suspense. It could be any of a number of criteria. What I need you to do is to generate 3 criteria by which you will discuss animal, vegetable, mineral. And it can be these can be any criteria you want, but I can tell you that when people discuss books, there's a lot of things, there are a lot of criteria we can talk about, a lot of constituent parts or elements of the book criteria. We're using those terms interchangeably for now. So, for example, we could say a criterion for a book could be readability. It could be appropriateness for the audience. It could be focus. It could be prose, whether the language is good or creative, or whether the language is, fill in whatever value blank you want. It could be vocabulary. It could be message. Okay, I think Kingsolver certainly does have a message in this book. It could be any of these criteria or more. So you need to come up with 3 criteria. And what I would expect you to do for this paper would be to start with an introduction and then introduce in that introduction your 3 criteria. Okay, and then take the criteria criteria. By the way, it's criteria with an A at the end is plural. Criterion, C-R-I-T-E-R-I-O-N, is the singular. They come from Greek. That's why the singular and plural don't follow standard English patterns. Anyway, so I want each of your criteria in order. So intro, then criterion 1, criterion 2, and criterion 3. Each criterion should form at least one really full paragraph. Okay, and if you choose to split them up into, instead of having sections, having paragraphs, have sections where each section has multiple paragraphs, and then you move to, each criterion rather has a section with multiple paragraphs. That's fine. Nobody in this class will ever be unhappy if you write something longer than you expected it to be. Okay, I have no problem with papers that are longer than the suggested page limit. Okay, none at all. In fact, those papers often succeed to extents that shorter papers don't. Okay, mainly because longer papers tend, not always, but tend to have more discussion. Okay, it's perfectly possible to BS your way through 7 or 8 pages of paper, but from my understanding of the way you guys write right now, I don't think that's going to happen. So I think we're all good there. Okay, so you may want to use subheads, criterion 1, blah, 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 whatever it is, criterion 2, criterion 3. That's perfectly fine. I'm leaving how to do this to a large extent up to you, but there's one thing that you must do, one in each criterion, actually 2 things you must do in each criterion. Number 1, you need to provide specific quoted examples from the text, more than 1 for each criterion. So at least 2 specific quoted examples from the text for each criterion. Secondly, when you provide these examples, you can't just leave them by themselves. Examples are not like chocolate chips, in a cookie. They're wonderful all by themselves. They need some kind of introduction. They need to use your prose to provide an introduction for the quotation. And they need you to explain how. Now, this is the really important part. This is what pushes this paper to be a real college level paper rather than just something anybody could have written. Okay? We need you to explain how this example proves the point you're trying to make in that criterion. Okay, so criterion is like a small argument all by itself. So, for example, we say, okay, animal, vegetable, animal, vegetable, mineral is a good book because it has very vivid language. Okay, I'm just off the top of my head. Okay, it has very vivid language. So what do we mean? Well, for example, very helpful phrase to sort of force yourself to provide examples. King Solver or her daughter or whoever, depending on which of the voices in the book is speaking, says the following: blah 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 blah. Okay, that by itself is not sufficient. What you need to do is then explain how this quotation shows vividness. Okay, so you give an example. We don't know that it shows vividness until you explain it. Okay, so what you're doing is you're both showing and telling. Okay, you may have heard professors or teachers say, "Show, don't tell." I want you to show and I want you to tell. Okay, because this will again, we talked about this earlier in the semester. This will bring you closer to your reader. This will make your reader think, this person cares enough to spend this much time to make sure that I understand it. Okay, they're not going to think you're being, believe me, they're not going to think you're being wordy. I'm certainly not going to think you're being wordy. I'm going to think you're doing the painstaking care that takes to make this paper detailed and specific. So you could, if we're talking about, if a certain passage is vivid, you could point out that the effect of certain words that it has on you, on your sort of ethos. We talked about that. Okay, you can talk about, certain words that are vivid, that are colorful, that are bright. Okay, certain words, certain phrases that stand out and why they stand out. Okay, it's kind of like describing music, which is it's kind of a trick, really. But what I want you to do is do your best that you can and use your most expressive words to explain how the quote you're using proves the point for that criterion that you say it's doing. All right. this is maybe a little much to get your head around in one viewing, so please feel free to view this video again. As you know, I have office hours, I have an email address, I have an office phone address that goes straight to my email, so I get my voicemail messages, within, very quickly after them being sent. So I'll be happy to talk with you about this. I'm doing this video on Thursday the 10th, I think. Is Thursday the 10th? Hang on, let me see. Thursday the 8th. Thursday the 8th. I'm doing this on Thursday the 8th. So you have a week and a day left. So you have a chunk of time. I know you've got lots of other exams as well, or papers, but you do have a chunk of time if you manage it correctly. So I will be happy to talk with you about this anytime between now and next Tuesday. I will be happy to stick around. I'll be happy to chat before class on Tuesday to answer any questions you have. Right after class on Tuesday, I have a meeting, but I can stick around a little after class, so we have time. Okay. So anyway, it's good to talk to you again. I hope you have a great remainder of the week. I hope you enjoy this beautiful fall weather and the lovely trees and the leaves changing on campus. And if you have any questions, email me or call. Thanks a lot. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.